vrouwelijk bloeden op de tronen. Nieuw bloeden.
Ik zie allemaal niet klaar van.
Vaderlijk woord van advies.
Here we have our test. Yeah. She has to sacrifice a baby.
Meen je niet, toch? Dat is een grap. Toch, pap?
We hebben dit allemaal moeten doen.
And what makes this scene super duper scary is that this might be going on in real life. Because there is an ex-banker, an ex-Dutch banker, Ronald Bernard, who said that the upper echelons of the financial world sacrifice children. He was part of a lot of shady stuff. It sounds like he was at parties that sounds like something out of Eyes Wide Shut, you know, like where there would be naked women and sex everywhere. But his conscience returned when he was invited to sacrifice children, according to himself.
The Netherlands are a part of a large global financial system. Through the financial world you learn all of the actual truth.
So you say all, in what regard?
Well, your clients give you glimpses of how the world really works. The entire world as we think we know it, is just an illusion we believe in. All those horrible things started to eat at me.
Can you tell me the worst thing that has happened that caused the tipping point in your situation?
Well, that was the beginning of the end. You get so deep into these circles. My conscience started to show itself. Let's put it this way. I was training to become a psychopath and I failed. And then they were doing their holy mass with naked woman and liquor and stuff. And it just amused me. So I was a guest in those circles and it amused me greatly to see all those named women and the other things. It was the good life. But then at some point, I was invited, which is why I'm telling you all this, to participate in sacrifices. Abroad. That was the breaking point. Children.
You were asked to do that?
Yes. And I couldn't do that.
De eerste vrouw van ons broederschap. Doe het, Carmen. Het moet. Je moet. Doe het. Doe het.
So in the previous episode, I pointed out that I believe that Henry Swanenburg and Carmen Swanenburg, the son and daughter of Maurits, that they respectively represent Apollo and Artemis, right? That we see here in these two busts on either side of their father. And following this Greek mythology reading of the characters, that would mean that Maurits himself would represent Zeus, the patriarch of the Greco-Roman pantheon. The cult of Zeus, like all the Indo-European, Indo-Aryan, sky god, thunder god tribes, it would arrive, and if it saw another religion, it would either remove the religion or subsume the religion into its fold. And we see this process of subsumation of this goddess religion in the story of Metis and Zeus. And in the story, we have Metis, the wisdom goddess, being prophesied to give birth to a child who will topple and remove Zeus and take over his throne. To prevent this from happening, Zeus decides to swallow Metis. And what she does, Metis, is that she moves into Zeus's head, where she can basically control him or provide him wise counsel. You know, practical wisdom, political cunning, so that he can continue reigning over the other gods and the world. So keep the myth in mind as we move into the scene where we see a very interesting dynamic between Maurits and another very interesting, very mysterious character, because it's strikingly similar to this strange arrangement between Zeus and Metis, the wisdom goddess, living inside his head, providing him wise counsel, practical advice, political cunning. So we've seen Maurits here before. We saw him having a conversation with Joost, the former president, who is now off to somewhere else. We saw him standing out here talking to Joost, right? And we didn't know where he was going, but we're gonna find out. Because inside his mansion, he keeps a witch trapped. And this is the very witch that was present during his inauguration when he was a young man, teenager really. And she looks not a day older, not an extra wrinkle on that face.
Onschuldig ziet Giel langer niet meer.
You're no longer innocent, she says, because she knows exactly what Maurits had to do to become president back when he was a teenager. And that was to kill someone very close to him. And during the inauguration ceremony, we saw her being trapped in a glass box. And here we're seeing her trapped in a room, right, with a glass wall window, if you will. So it seems like this witch has been the mentor of Maurits ever since he became president as a teenager, right? So we might imagine that he's gone to her throughout the decades to get counsel, to get her wisdom. And the type of wisdom that she gives Maurits is the exact same type of wisdom that Metis gives Zeus. And that is practical wisdom, political cunning, so that he can maneuver the world of Ares, right, the world of the Netherlands, so that he can remain on the throne, right? Exactly like Zeus wants to remain on the throne as well, right? Because Maurits is the head of Ares, and Ares is one of these secret societies, or base of one of these secret societies in the Netherlands. So the dynamics between these two characters are strikingly similar to the one between Zeus and Metis.
Den troost spreekt boos. Er mogen vrouwelijk bloeden op de tronen. Nieuw bloeden.
Is hij allemaal niet klaar van?
Dat te bepalen Gie niet. Gie moet het waan wat ik haar dien.
Now, while Ares is highly Greek mythology coded, it does take place in the Netherlands. Why not add some Dutch folklore as well? Because I do believe that while this woman represents Metis, she also represents the Wieven from Dutch folklore, the wise women or white women, depending on how you translate Wieven. I do believe that the original meaning of that term is wise women, but they were said to be dressed in white, right? So white women, wise women, potato potato really. The Wieven are seen as these elvic, ghostly beings that are not part of this world, but they're part of the other world, but they can sort of manifest to a degree in this world, right? So I guess we could call them ghosts. But in so ancient times, they were seen as elves in a way, you know, beings that lived in the other world. But these legends might in fact have been derived from actual women who used to live in the Netherlands. And these would have been, prophetesses, healers, wise women, yeah, that people went to gain insight into the future, insights into life in general, and also to get help with different ailments, right? So they were witches, right? They were witches who knew how to heal people and who had psychic abilities. And these women were revered in life, but also when they moved on, hence why their burial grounds would have been seen as sacred ground. And you can see how that would have sort of created these legends and stories and beliefs in them being these elven beings that live in the other world but sometimes manifest in this one. And who knows, maybe they do, maybe they did. And it was only after the Christians arrived that they were cast in a nefarious light as being evil or whatnot, right? That's what, Christianity has done wherever it has arrived. It has demonized the local priests and priestesses and gods and what have you, yeah? That has been the strategy ever since the priests of Jerusalem sought to consolidate all the power in Jerusalem, right? But back then they were highly revered. And it's interesting to note that the Wieven, again, were dressed in white, and they were also said to arrive in groups of 3. And this points to the white goddess archetype, also known as the triple goddess archetype, that Robert Graves wrote his seminal book on. And the white goddess is the lunar goddess, and the moon has basically 3 phases, if you will. There is the waxing moon, the full moon and the waning moon, which parallel the three phases of womanhood: maiden, mother, and crone. We've talked a lot about the story of Persephone when it comes to this show. And in the story of Persephone, we have Persephone as core, as the maiden, before she's abducted by Hades, right? She's with her friends out in nature, smelling flowers and whatnot. Then he takes her down into the underworld. Her mother is grieving, right? So that's the mother archetype. And then Persephone herself goes from being core, the maiden, to queen of the underworld, the crone. This woman right here could embody all three archetypes, but I do believe that she's obviously more associated with the crone. And the crone is the wisest aspect of the lunar goddess, white goddess archetype. So we can see how that these archetypes are in fact the same archetype, right? So we have Metis, the wisdom goddess of ancient times, and then you have the white goddess, the triple goddess, who the Wieven are associated with, whether or not they are derived from real women or not. If they are derived from real women, which I believe they are, they can still embody an archetype, right? A goddess power, a lunar power. So this is very interesting. We have basically a pre-Christian witch who Maurits has entrapped exactly like Zeus swallowed Metis, right? And he keeps her alive inside his house so that he may benefit from her wisdom, exactly like Zeus benefits from Metis, right? Zeus didn't want to remove Metis. He saw that he could use her wisdom to gain and keep his power, exactly like Maurits uses this wise witch here. You can see the mental connection here, right? And that is interesting. He is very sensitive because he does puke out the egg actually, even before he goes into the ritual chamber. So I think that he was actually originally a highly empathetic and sensitive, even kind young man, but he was severed from that when he performed his ritual. We don't know who he killed, but he did kill someone very close to him, right? And that's what they have to do to become members of the inner court of Aries, the secret society within the secret society.
Ik zie allemaal niet klaar van.
Dat te bepalen gij niet. Maurits, gij moet het waan wat ik had dien om te overleven.
En dat is?
Met je tijd meegaan.
So she's telling him to adapt to the times, right? She's giving him advice here on how to maneuver the current landscape. And we'll see what she means by that in a little bit. But this is not the first time that the regent families that the Svanenburgs represent on the show had to adapt to the times. Because Aries again represents these highly patriarchal secret societies, right? But in the society we live in today, women are getting more and more of a foothold, right? And that is a challenge to orders like Aries that are very traditional and very patriarchal.
Rosa! Heb jij Jacob gezien?
Nee.
Ze is met mij.
Is dat zo?
And we found out in the last episode that Rosa's mother was not only a part of Aries, but was partner with Maurits.
Ik droom over je.
Wat droom je dan? Carmen, Zwanenburg. Zegt die naam je iets? Mijn moeder en jouw vader, wat is dit?
Ze hadden grote plannen samen.
Ze houden daar iets gevangen onder Ares.
And Carmen here is of course Maurits' daughter. And he has to figure out who the next president is. The witch tells him to adapt to the times. They've never had a female president before. So we'll see. We'll see who.
We will indeed.
Orders van hogere hand. Alumni komen dineren vanavond.
And actually this guy is the next in line of the men, Roderick here.
Welke?
Iedereen. Ze gaan een nieuwe kandidaat uitkiezen.
I don't know if anybody really wants to become president because the last two ended up offing themselves. So not a great track record. And they offed themselves quite soon after getting the office, by the way, so.
Ik hoop niet dat ik morgen aan een bal kan.
So the leadership of Aries are going to arrive shortly, and dinner arrangements have been made, and we have these name tags showing that Maurits is going to be flanked by, on one hand, his daughter Carmen, and on the other, Rosa, the daughter of his ex-fiancée. So interesting what he's planning here.
Ik ben er bijna vanavond. Vanavond gaan we je bevrijden, Beaal.
Meanwhile, we have Jacob down in the basement. Where else? If you need to find Jacob at any time while in the lodge house, by the way, either look for him in a corner lurking around, or in the basement trying to liberate Beal, the being that lives and is trapped, like the witch is trapped actually, in the basement of Ares. We don't know what Beal is yet, but I have made my argument for Beal being an egregore, a thought form that is sustained by the mental energy of a group of people, in this case, the members of Ares. Specifically their guilt and shame, right, their bad conscience. And here we have Fleur Borms, getting a legendary slap.
Kom, we gaan hier samen weg, oké? Ja, kom.
Dankjewel, Leopold. Zien we je vanavond. Dat was de laatste. Iedereen komt. Ze willen allemaal weten wie het wordt. Daar ben ik ook wel benieuwd naar.
Het is cruciaal dat de volgende president de juiste is. Borms heeft het alleen maar bozer gemaakt.
Het is mijn taak om het weer te kalmeren voor het uit de hand loopt.
Als je dan per se wil dat het een vrouw wordt, laat het dan iemand uit een van de families zijn. Wie anders?
Ik weet dat er een soort test aan vooraf gaat. Ik ben er klaar voor. Meer dan zij. Papa, ik praat tegen je.
Goed, wij bereiden het voor.
Oké, top.
And Carmen has no idea what she's in for, you know. We know what the presidents, what the aspiring presidents have to do to become presidents, to enter the secret society within the secret society. And there's been no woman in there before. Just remember the connection that I believe that she has to Artemis, goddess of the wilderness, wild animals, and also a protector of children.
Vaderlijk woord van advies.
Here we have her test. Yeah. She has to sacrifice a baby.
Her firstborn.
I don't think it's her baby. And you can recall, right, I drew several parallels between her brother Henry and Apollo, and Apollo's sister Artemis is a protector of children. So I think there is a connection here between her and Artemis, and within a Greco-Roman sort of pantheon analysis of the show.
We zoeken het meest pure dat in jou zit. Een op maat gemaakte test. Voor iedereen anders. Voor iedereen persoonlijk.
Meen je niet, toch? Dat is een grap, toch, pap?
Dit is het belangrijkste moment uit jouw leven. We hebben dit allemaal moeten doen.
And what makes this scene super duper scary is that this might be going on in real life. Because there is an ex-banker, an ex-Dutch banker named Ronald Bernard, who said that the upper echelons of the financial world sacrifice children. He was part of a lot of shady stuff. It sounds like he was at parties that sounds like something out of Eyes Wide Shut, where there would be naked women and sex everywhere. But his conscience returned when he was invited to sacrifice children, according to himself. There's an interview with him where he's breaking down, talking about this. There was an interview from 2017 that has been resurfacing because of the Epstein stuff.
Ronald, you have a very strong background in the financial sector, asset management, deposit trading. As far as I understood, can you tell us something about your experiences?
My experiences are more complicated than what you mentioned just now.
How high in the pyramid did you get? Were you close to the top of the pyramid?
Well, we were communicating with them. My ego would have loved it when I got to this position of belonging to the top itself. Nowadays we still talk about 8,000 to 8,500 people in the world who run the entire world. It would have been amazing to get into such a position back then. I played at the highest level for about 5 years. And then it was totally over, out and done with. The Netherlands are a part of a large global financial system. Through the financial world you learn all of the actual truth.
So you say all, in what regard?
Well, your clients give you glimpses of how the world really works. If only people knew what the world is really like. The entire world as we think we know it, is just an illusion we believe in. All those horrible things started to eat at me.
Can you give an example? Because I can sense a lot of terrible things happen to you.
Yes. It is difficult for me to talk about.
I can feel that, but only whatever you wish to share is all right. Can you tell me the worst thing that has happened that caused the tipping point in your situation?
Well, that was the beginning of the end. You get so deep into these circles. My conscience started to show itself. Let's put it this way. I was training to become a psychopath and I failed. I did not complete the training and didn't become a psychopath. My conscience came back, and the most difficult part for me was, because I had such a great status there, I was a success. I was trusted with the people playing at this level. And then they were doing their holy mass with naked woman and liquor and stuff, and it just amused me. I didn't believe in any of this stuff, and was far from convinced if any of this was real.
It was just a spectacle to you.
Yes. In my opinion, the darkness and evil is within the people themselves. I didn't make the connection yet. So I was a guest in those circles, and it amused me greatly to see all those named women and the other things. It was the good life. But then at some point, I was invited, which is why I'm telling you all this, to participate in sacrifices. Abroad. That was the breaking point. Children.
You were asked to do that?
Yes. And I couldn't do that.
Once again, we're probably not dealing with some super dystopic Netflix world building that only takes place in fictional worlds. This show, again, is inspired directly by these student societies, ultra exclusive, very elite student societies that is the training ground and networking hubs of the elite of the Netherlands, right?
De eerste vrouw van ons broederschap. Doe het, Carmen. Het moet. Je moet. Doe het. Doe het.
This is not your average Netflix show. This show is based directly on Dutch society, right? Aries is directly inspired by these elite student societies in all the top universities that produce the future judges, politicians, CEOs, etc. And then we have an ex-banker, Ronald Bernard, saying that the upper echelons of the financial world sacrifice children. And we have this maybe verified in this show, who knows?
Er zijn nog jongens in de Senaat die we kunnen benaderen. Maurits, iedereen is onderweg.
Dus laten we ze gaan verwelkomen.
And also think that Maurits wants her to kill a child so that she does something that is as opposite to motherhood and womanhood as possible, sacrificing a baby, right? Women create babies, having them kill one is such an antithetical act because Aries don't want women to be women if they are to have any power within their order, right? They want women who are like Athena, Athena being this wisdom goddess who existed long before Zeus arrived to Greece, right? She was worshipped in Greece way before Zeus arrived to the scene. And they took her, clad her in armor, and had her emerge not from the womb of a mother goddess, but from Zeus's head. Like, yes, she was born from Metis inside Zeus, but her emerging from the skull of Zeus very much represents her being an extension of the masculine intellect of her father. So that's what we're seeing here, right? They don't want women to be in tune with their feminine wisdom. They want women to be subsumed into this patriarchal world and to essentially function as men. That's what we see in society as well, where we don't want women really to fully embody the feminine. We want women to basically execute the masculine, right? And to go out there and be sort of seamlessly integrated into the system without changing it. Because if women gain power while being fully in their feminine and being priestesses of the goddess, right? Because all women are Isis and Isis is all women, that would change the world we live in. And they don't want that, and Aries don't want that. So if a woman is to become a president, they have to essentially sacrifice their womanhood, which is what they wanted Carmen to do by sacrificing a baby, right? And here we have Rosa. I think she's actually killed her. I mean, maybe we see her kind of breathing a little bit, but... And we have here Maurits looking at her like a very proud dad. That's my girl.
Jacob is in disbelief.
Jacob means business, man.
Ik spreek namens BA. Jullie zullen allemaal sterven.
I think Maurits has found his future president. Someone who's willing to kill. I mean, is she alive though? Because she was punched a lot, she survived that, but is she like drowned in the bile?
You can see she was alive, man.
Is she breathing? And we have the Wieven feeling what is going on here, right? Alright, one episode more.
The negative, you can say evil, whatever you wish to call it, it is a real entity. I have found that what is written in the Bible, and not just the Bible, you can find it in so many books. There really has been a moment of separation from the manifestation of light, in which a group went their own way and are carrying an intense hatred, anger. The people who do not underestimate the severity of this are but few. Because this is an all-annihilating force that hates our guts. It hates creation. It hates life. And it will do anything to destroy us completely. And the way to do that is to divide humanity. Divide and conquer is their truth. Humanity is a manifestation of light. That is the true creation. As long as you divide them based on political parties, skin color, you name it, then you, from a Luciferian point of view that is, suppress the full capacities of your enemy, their full power. They can't stand up for themselves. Because if that would happen, the Luciferians would lose. Then this monster, the greedy monster, would disappear. I tell people about this old American general who puts an entire room of people in the dark. The eyes adapt to the darkness, but you can't see a thing. The general doesn't say a word and suddenly he flicks on a lighter, one little light. And due to the prolonged darkness, you experience a manifestation of light from a single point and everyone can slightly see each other again. And then he says, that is the power of our light.
Beautiful.
Unite. Unite. Come together. And this entire shit story ceases to exist. That's how fast it could happen.